Hey guys, I wanted to jump on and just talk to you about the differences between attach and weld. So, if you're new to Cricut Design Space or utilizing your cutting machines and you're in a bunch of different groups, depending on the question that you ask, you may get a bunch of different answers, okay, on how to do something. And, some of them may be the right way, some of them may be the right way, but not the quickest way to do it or the best way to do it. And then some of them may not be right at all. Okay. So, what I wanted to do for my group is I wanted to talk to you about the difference between attach and weld. And then in another video right after this, I'm going to actually show you the visuals of the output. Okay. So, I'm in Cricut Design Space. I have a blank canvas on my screen. I'm going to go over to the left-hand side and click on the text button. And then I'm just going to type in July. And whatever font, when you go into Cricut Design Space, it's going to default to your Cricut Sans, which is the default font. If you want to change that, you would just go up to the font and then click on the little drop down arrow, and then you would select whatever font, okay? But I'm going to leave it there for right now. So let's say I have July, and then I'm just going to right click. I'm going to right click this and select duplicate. And now I have July on my screen twice, okay? So I'm going to change the color here so that you can see what's going to happen better. So I'm just going to go up right next to line type, and I'm going to choose green. Green is my color for today. Okay, so I'm going to put green on both of them so they're both the same color. Now, what happens is a lot of people tend to think that if they click on make it from this point, it's going to force them to have to put each letter on individually, okay? And that is not true, okay? You are not going to have to manually put J on and then line up U and then line up L and then line up Y, okay? So when I click on make it, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. Since I did not attach or weld, it's going to put July and July right next to each other, okay? Right next to each other. But when I use transfer tape and lay that transfer tape down on top of this, the transfer tape is going to pick up both words together, July and July, just as you see it on your screen. It's going to transfer it from your vinyl backing onto the transfer tape. Okay, there's not going to be, you have to do J by itself, U by itself, L by itself, Y by itself, so on and so forth. It's going to, when you lay that transfer tape on top of this, it's going to pick up all of this together. And then you just take all of that together and put it on your mug or glass or whatever you're going to put it on. Okay, I'm going to cancel. Now, if you want July and July to be right under each other so that you don't have to worry about lining it up, then all you have to do is just bring the two together, and in the bottom right corner, you're going to click on attach. Okay. So now when I click on make it, it's going to put July and July right as you saw it on your screen the way you designed it. Same thing, you'll take your transfer tape, cut you a piece of transfer tape to cover July and July. And then as the transfer tape is laying on there, you're just going to take a brayer or a spatula, and you're just going to press down on that transfer tape on top of the vinyl. You're pressing down so that you can get the July and the July off of the paper, the vinyl backing onto your transfer tape. And then you would take it, put it on your glass or your mug. But again, it's not going to be each individual letter that you have to take off separately. You're going to be taking off all of this as one piece, okay? So that's July, okay, using attach. So what I'm going to do is now I am going to bring in another text of July. And actually, I'm going to use something else that has a little bit more curve to it. So I'm going to type in my name, Doris, because that's what they told me my name is. I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so now I have Doris, and I'm going to put Doris in green as well. And it doesn't matter what color I choose here because it's only going to cut out in the color vinyl that I have on my screen or I have on my mat. So now I have Doris, okay? So what I want to do now is I would like to weld Doris, okay? Yes, weld is a valid option down here in the bottom right corner, but if I click on weld, it's not going to serve any purpose, okay? It's not going to serve any purpose at all when I go to cut this out in Cricut Design Space. When I go to cut this out, it's going to cut out D by itself, O by itself, R by itself, I by itself, S by itself, okay? And then again, you're going to use your transfer tape and, you know, transfer it over to whatever you want it on. However, when I click on Make It, what you're going to see now is now I have July and July in the order that I wanted it because I attached it. And then Doris is just hanging out there because I left her by herself, okay? But she's going to cut out just like you see it. The words are going to cut out just like you see it. D-O-R-I-S. Nothing attached together, okay? I'm going to cancel. So if you want to use Weld, you want to use a font that is cursive, in cursive, okay? So I'm just going to select a font down here and I'm going to go with, I'm going to pick up something kind of cute. I love Ananda Black. So let's go with that. So now Ananda Black is on my screen. The font is Ananda Black and Doris is now in cursive, okay? So it's two ways that I can do this. I can either go to letter space and click on the drop down here or the drop down arrow, and it will start moving my letters from right over to the left, okay? You do want to be careful when you are using letter space because if I zoom in here, you're going to see that the R is all inside of the O. It's all up on that O. Okay, so you do not want to move your letters over so much that it starts skewing what the word is, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up here and click on Ungroup for Doris. And that will then allow me to drag each letter separately. So I'm just going to have everything kind of touching here. And I can tell it's touching because I have it magnified. I've zoomed in. And there. So everything has to be touching for Weld. So what's going to happen is now when I go in and I group these letters back together, Weld is final. So once you click on anything you want to do it before you click on Weld. Once you click on Weld, it's a done deal. You can't change anything about it, okay? So you see how I have all this area up here where I can do certain things. Some of these things will no longer be available to me once I Weld. Same thing is when you start messing with the letter spacing, you're going to lose some of your functionality here as well. As you can see, there's no longer a letter space for me. That option is gone because I ungrouped it and started moving the letters individually. So now there's no letter spacing. I lost that functionality. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to choose green just so you can see it better. And everything will show up on the same mat. But now when I click on Weld, you're going to see that everything is touching, and this is going to cut out one solid Doris with the exception of this little dot is going to be a standalone. It's not going to be attached to anything because there's nothing connecting it, okay? So Weld has to be touching just like this. You don't want to overlap with your welding because then it will cut wherever those overlapping lines are, it's going to cut. So if I brought this R too far over into the O, it's going to slice it. It's going to cut it, okay? So what I'm going to do now is when I click on Make It, you're going to see Doris just hanging out there by herself, and then July, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to now click on Cancel, and I'm going to go in and detach. I'm going to get rid of one of these Julys because I really don't need them, but I'm going to actually show you what the difference is between attach and weld when you cut it out, okay? So this is attached, or was attached, and this is going to show you what attach is the process for attaching, and this is your weld, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click on Make It, and what I'm going to do now is click on Continue, because I don't have to worry about mirroring anything, because this is going to go on a cup, a mug, or glass or plate or something like that. It's not going, or canvas, it's not anything that I need to mirror. When you're working with heat transfer, then you have to click on Mirror, okay? If you're working with light color transfer or t-shirt transfer paper, then you have to mirror, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click Continue. And at this point, Design Space is recognizing what cutting machine I'm working with, because that tells Design Space what functionality you have, okay? So there's some things that you cannot do with the Explorer and the Explorer 2 that you can do with the Cricut Maker. So this Design Space is picking up that functionality based on your type of cutting machine, okay? So now I'm going to select Vinyl, and my machine is ready. So what this screen is telling you is that your material is set to vinyl. If you selected it by accident, you just click on this little drop down arrow here to the right, and it will allow you to change your material, okay? Then your pressure, I'm going to leave it on default. I don't need any extra or less pressure. So I'm just going to leave the pressure at default. But if I needed to change it, I would just click the drop down. And then for number 2, it tells me to load my tools and material. So in the first clamp on my Cricut Maker, it should be empty. And then I need the fine point blade in clamp B. And then once I have those things ready, my mat is ready, then I'll just click on the load functionality, okay? So I already have my mat prepped. I'm going to go ahead and put my mat in. And now I'm going to hit the C for the Cricut logo. And it is now going to cut out my July and Doris. So at this point, I'm going to stop the video, and I will be right back with part 2 to show you the output on the glass and what they look like when I transfer them over. All right, so I'll be right back.